Hi, this is John Moseley, a former attorney of 22 years and political activist before and after. I want to talk a little bit about Charlie Kirk's security team dealing with, his appearance at the Utah Valley University, where he was assassinated. Now, this is a huge topic. I'm going to touch on some legal aspects of this. And provide some context, but there is no way I can cover this entire topic. It's not something that I'm expert in terms of security things. I am expert in the legal ramifications I'm going to talk about, but this is a topic that could be dealt with in a post-mortem over and over and over. So this isn't going to be just a one chapter discussion about the security detail for Charlie Kirk's appearance there. But there are some very important questions that are part of all the nonsense that we have with Charlie Kirk's death. First of all, Charlie Kirk had a private security team. They're very, very good. Their backgrounds are excellent. They have a lot of qualified professional experience to bring to the table, but they're still just a private security team. They are not the Secret Service. We think about what happens when the president goes somewhere and they check it all out and they take control and they put people on the roof and everything. They're just private security guards. They do not have the authority of law. They do not have the authority of the government. They are not the Secret Service. They are not the local police. They just follow him around and try their best to assist in the peace and protection of events, which is primarily the job of the police. And so everything that flows from that, there's dozens of issues that people want to raise. Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do this? Because they're not the Secret Service. They're just employees. That's why they're called private security. Like everybody say it with me right now. Private security. They're just private employees that provide a little bit of backup to the limited extent that they're allowed to do so. Now, I don't know which of these two things to say. I'd like to say them both at the same time, but that won't work. So, Charlie Kirk's, one of his major claims to fame, he did a lot of great things, but was that he went out and he wanted to meet real people with a priority to those who disagreed with him. Now, if you're a private security employee, expert, specialist, there couldn't be anything more dangerous. He insisted upon having public occurrence of events. Now, and I have been to conferences and things where there are people way up on the stage, and I want to meet them, and I want to talk to them. Some of them I've known before, some of them I've used to work for, and they're way up there, and you can't get to them because the event has them go a side issue, or side entrance, a side exit, and there's barriers, and you are sitting there listening to the public event, but you have no chance of interacting with them, which is why I think a lot of those conferences are just, well, everybody should do some of them, but I feel like I've done enough of them myself. But in any event, so that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about he wants to sit there like this close to actual real life human beings and invite the people who disagree with him up to the front. I cannot imagine any more nightmarish situation if you are in charge of security. And so let's get the concept here straight. It was Charlie Kirk's insistence, because this was his point, is to go out there and mingle and talk to people. He says, we're all in our camps. We're believing in lying news media. We're not really talking to each other. one of his major things was to actually talk to real people and not just be in our tribes with preconceived ideas that nobody talks to each other about. And if somebody has a disagreement, he wants to say, okay, why? Tell me why you think that way. And probe what's driving all these forces in our society and get beneath the surface. And that's something he chose to do. That's something he didn't choose as an incident, but as a major part of what he was trying to accomplish. His mission in life was to get people to actually talk to each other and find common ground in common sense, and get rid of all the rhetoric and get rid of all the buzzwords and get rid of all the labels and all the, all the brainwashing that people have gotten. Said, okay, let's talk like real human beings. How does that make any sense? What you believe? Tell me. It was encapsulated in his famous saying, "Prove me wrong." He would go out to college campuses and set up. Now, he had huge events. And he got started mostly, and he also still had just small presences. He'd get permission to be one of the organizations set up on a college campus, and he would make a controversial statement in a banner, and then he'd say, "Prove me wrong." I mean, prove me wrong. I mean, you're inviting conflict, but hopefully at the end of that conflict, there will come greater understanding and common sense. But if you want to be a security guard for Charlie Kirk, and he's saying, here's something that most of you are going to disagree with. I'm sitting right here at the cardboard table, and I'm saying, go ahead, prove me wrong. I mean, this is nothing like anything else that you're going to have with a person appearing in public. Like I said, most conservative leaders ever get is that they're up on the stage and there are all these barriers and there's no way you can get to them. Even if, like me, I want to talk to Tom Fitton. I used to work at Judicial Watch, and there was something I want to talk about. I actually did manage, I don't remember how. I managed to get through that, and I actually want to talk to him about something. But typically speaking, appearing in public means that you are unable to interact with anybody. Charlie Kirk is like as far as you can go in terms of a security risk. Just unimaginable in our society today how different that was from everything else that goes on in political discussion, political debate. Now, maybe a candidate will go to a VIP meeting where his supporters have paid a lot of money to be in a reception, but they're all on his side, and they want to mingle. But here could not be more different. So you have some security guards. Let's say somebody wants to hire you. I want you to be one of the security guards in this situation. If you're rational, you're going to think, what the hell am I supposed to do about it? What can I do to protect anybody in that kind of a situation? But the thing is, a security guard can watch for threats developing. We just saw, as I record this, an ICE agent in self-defense. I watched many of the videos. No question about it. A woman driving an SUV was turned her wheels to aim at an ICE agent, and then gunned the engine. And the guy would have been killed before he could have shot if the road weren't icy. So, and everybody's saying, screaming about that. Can a private individual security guard guarding Charlie Kirk respond to what he perceives to be a threat in the crowd? You'd have to be pretty careful, and you'd have to be trained, to think in a split second, do I have the right to take action? Maybe, maybe not. maybe if someone in the crowd pulls a gun and he can see it and do, is about to do something really extreme, even though the security guards are not government officials, they're just private employees, maybe they could jump in front of them, maybe they could tackle the person, but people would still fight about it. They'd still probably be suspended, arrested, go through an inquest, an inquiry, and before anybody would agree that what they did was okay. Because they're not police. They're not, and it's not, you can say, well, I'm protecting this person. Okay, but self-defense is protecting you. Self-defense means that you are in fear of your life, not that you want to protect somebody else. I know that doesn't sound like it's logical, but that's what the law says. Taking action for the defense of another is even more squishy in the law. It shouldn't be. It should be very clear. If someone's in danger, you should be able to intervene and protect them. No question about it. But that's not the way the law, in difference to different states, are going to be different, but that's not generally the way the law looks at it. So they are not police officers. So the question is, why didn't they secure the roof? They're not police officers. They do not own the University of Utah system. The roof does not belong to them. They have no ownership interest in the Utah Valley University buildings or roofs. They are guests of the university. They can't go up there and commandeer the roof. They can tell the police, hey, we think you probably should block off the roof, which apparently they did, and they were blown off. Now remember, this is a place that for 8 months previously, they had all these protests for the murderers in Hamas, and they intentionally, okay, Candace Owens is going to say all kinds of things. This is reported, allegedly. There's a movie, I can't remember what it was, where, or maybe it was a TV skit or whatever, where, not a TV, well, these days it's all internet, and it's some internet where there'll be the two guys are playing comedy and they keep saying allegedly. So they'll say something like, oh, allegedly, and they'll just keep saying allegedly to the point where it's a joke. And it's true, but currently on the table is maybe it is alleged that they turned off most of the cameras on the university campus for left-wing politics, for the reasons of left-wing politics. It appears. We'll find out for maybe at some point if that's actually true. But what they report is that they were blown off. Now, Gary Melton of Paramount Tactical has a podcast. I think Paramount Tactical is really not the main, I don't think that's what they normally do. I think they're more dealing with selling firearms. But since the Candace Owens thing and everything like that, they've been really focused on some of the very best information. They had the head of Turning Point USA's security, Brian, I believe it's Brian Harpole. Again, if I get the right software, I'll be able to stop and go double check and make sure that I'm not young, but I was bad with names and cities and dates when I was in my 20s. I'm just not built that way. So anyway, Brian Harpole, as I understand it, is that he did like a 2-hour interview with Gary Melton, and everybody else is picking off of his interview, taking clips out of that and making points for and against. But according to the head of security, they tried to get a lot of things done, and the university, which, why a university has a police department, I don't know. I think it should be done by the city. In any case, anywhere. It just bothers me that you're supposed to be an educational institution. You're not a city. You don't have a police department. You shouldn't be investigating people. You should hand it over to the professionals. So anyway, that's the thing. So he says that they were not able to get cooperation on many of the things that they would have recommended and did recommend. They wanted, so why didn't they have drones? Of according to him, in his interview, I mean, he doesn't owe Candace Owens an explanation. He doesn't owe us an explanation, but at some point in time, I imagine it will come out somehow or other, maybe. I mean, I don't know if it's directly relevant to the trial, but it might come out in the trial, that he was told that you can't do it. We won't allow you to run drones over the university. Now, drones have gone from benign toys to absolute total hysteria because of the war in Ukraine. And that's a whole nother topic. And the Ukrainians completely changed military warfare. I'm not discounting the dangers of drones. But in most of our past, since drones were invented, they were just like toys. They're just like, they use them for inspecting crops. They use them for inspecting bridges, power lines. It's no big deal. So to have a drone flying over the University of the Utah University, Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah, it's no big deal, but it is now because everyone's hysterical. So they denied their use of drones, and again, the private security team is private. They have no authority. Zero, none, no authority whatsoever. Goose egg, zero. They have no authority whatsoever. And they can be there and throw themselves in front of Charlie Kirk if something develops. They can scope it out. They can make requests. And by the way, this is what the Oath Keepers, years before January 6, 2021, and the Proud Boys, that's what they were doing. They were providing private security, and they, like, for example, the Oath Keepers, every single time, part of their preparation for going out to some situation would coordinate with the local police. They say, we're going to be there. Here's our contact information. We don't want to surprise you. We don't want to have any misunderstanding. We're here to help. Let's stay in touch. And so the thing is, they can do that, but that's about all they can do. So people then say, so the thing is, it was like, for example, people might have in their mind, and I'm sympathetic when appropriate. People might have in mind the recent experience of President Trump being shot in Butler, Pennsylvania, where someone was supposedly on the roof, and people might say, well, why didn't the Secret Service, take the roof? But that's different because it's the Secret Service. It's a government agency with government power. They come in there and you say, well, this is my building. What are you doing here? Here's my badge. Secret Service, stand down. Go stand over there. And they can do that in defense of the president or other protectees, believe it or not, quite a number of people other than just the president. So anyway, they have no authority to do anything, and all they did was make requests, and those requests were mostly denied or approved and then never implemented. So the thing is, it's not right to confuse them with a government agency. And so let's remember, sad, stomach turning, but the whole nonsense about Fort Huachuca, which is spelled nothing like what it sounds like, is some squirrel outside of Candace Owens' window gave her a tip, and you have to know that Candace Owens speaks squirrel. So when the squirrels are chirping out there, she gets down and she knows that she has a big revelation about the death of Charlie Kirk, or whether Bridget Macron is a man. So anyway, so there's some tip that some guy, Mitch Snow, blundered into a secret meeting. And I say in another visit, another thing, it's amazing how all these supposed colonels and special forces leaders and all these top people who are going to engage in an assassination. Number one, it's not that hard to kill somebody. I mean, it's a terrible thing to say. I don't know why God has made our bodies so vulnerable, so easy to kill. I mean, I mean, we're not here for very long. This is a bus stop. We're just passing through. But to say that it's easy to kill someone is a horrible thing to say, but it is a fact. And you don't need a bunch of colonels and special forces and everything like that. It's just not necessary. But number two, nobody told them to lock the door. You're having a secret conspiratorial criminal conspiracy meeting and you didn't lock the door? Maybe you're not as swift as you think you are. So anyway, so they have this thing. So it all comes out that Mitch Snow saw the same security chief, Brian Harpole. The only thing that connects this madness about Fort Huachuca and some Egyptian planes and some kind of conspiracy to kill Charlie Kirk, like I say, sad to say of our human condition, ain't that hard to kill somebody, is that supposedly Mitch Snow saw Brian Harpole, the same security chief for Turning Point USA, in the secret meeting that they didn't lock the door for. So Mitch Snow just sort of blundered in there and they kept talking. Nobody said, wait a minute, this is a secret meeting. Who are you? What are you doing in here? No, they just decided to keep talking. But they saw Brian Harpole in somebody's gonna. I'm gonna get his name. I'm gonna do something like get his name wrong. So they're going. So it's the fact that he's there is the only connection. Yeah, it's fortunately I'm right. It's Brian. Brian Harpole. That he was there at this secret meeting, according to the squirrels. So, but we still don't know what the meeting was about. Was the meeting about invading Venezuela? Was the meeting about protecting Charlie Kirk from some security threat? Was the meeting about Egyptian planes? Was it about, honeybees? We have no idea what this meeting was supposed to be about, except that Brian Harpole, according to Mitch Snow, who couldn't be there, not in the meeting. He could be on base, but he wasn't at the meeting. He wasn't in the meeting. That Brian Harpole was there. That's it. From that little slender thread hangs this entire monstrous lie that Turning Point USA wanted Charlie Kirk dead, is that Brian Harpole was supposedly at a meeting where they forgot to lock the door. But the question is, but again, he's private security. So the question now I have, and this is where I have more questions, but some opinions. It sounds familiar, doesn't it? But I really am asking questions because I actually want to know the answer. Is what did Charlie Kirk's security team do any different if they were protecting Charlie Kirk or trying to harm Charlie Kirk? That's why I wanted to put up this whole thing. They're not in charge of the University of Utah university system. They don't own the university. They're not police. They're not the Orem, Utah police. They're not the FBI. They're not the Secret Service. They're just there in case they might be able to throw themselves in front of an attacker. That's it. Given that reality, tell us what Brian Harpole and the private security, private remember, let's say, everybody say together, private security, that what did they not do? What did they do that they would have been doing if they were trying to protect him? I can't think of a single thing. You tell me. What did they not do? Now, after the shock, people say, well, they didn't act like they were, we don't like, after he was shot, we don't like the way they behaved. I don't care. That's not what I'm talking about. That's stupid. People in grief do crazy things. They say, why did this one guy walk away? He's probably looking for who shot him. In other words, when somebody's criticism starts out, well, why would I forget the guy's name. Why would the security guard away from Charlie Kirk? You don't know. When you say why, you're saying, hey, I don't know. So you're telling us you have no idea. We listen to you if you don't know. But I can think of plenty of good reasons. If we're just going to think of reasons, he's probably looking, where did the shot come from? He's probably wandering around looking at the crowd saying, who shot him? And then look up the roof and the guy's falling off the roof. Like, oh, that's the guy. If you're saying, I don't know why the people did what they did, but there's plenty of good reasons, plenty of good explanations. So what's the problem? Okay, so if you don't like what they did after it was too late, what should a private security team do after it's too late? Prevent it. It's too late. So what did they do? Behaved after the shock of their boss being shot, which means they just failed. Although they would naturally want to think about, is the shooter going to shoot anybody else? But again, they're not the police. They're just private security. But still, they're going to be like, can I see who shot him? Could I stop him from shooting anybody else? But anyway, so the thing is, what they did do was they threw him in the car because in Washington, D.C., one of the most important medical institutions is George Washington University. When Ronald Reagan was shot at the, the hotel, I've been there so many times. And they brought him to, they threw him in the car, in the Beast, the limousine, and drove him to George Washington University Hospital. They didn't wait, and George Washington's University Hospital saved his life. And in the same way, the university system, the hospital was, I've heard, like 6 minutes away. So why didn't they wait for the EMS team or for the ambulance? Because it was faster to drive. Rather than to wait for the ambulance to come out and the ambulance to go back, they just put him in the car. They got him there in like 6 minutes. Now, the one thing that they can do after he's shot is that they were very experienced soldiers who've been in combat. And one of the things that they are good at is that they are EMS. They are EMTs. They do first aid on the battlefield. Serious weapons, serious injuries. They, so they've got the Washington Hilton Hotel was. So the thing is they were busy applying first aid. You've seen in the movies where they've got this anti-clotting powder, and so they were busy applying emergency aid to Charlie Kirk while they were driving over to the hospital. So I don't think there was any EMS team at the university, but they were the EMS team. That's the one thing they could do after he was shot, and they did. They tried to save his life. They were pulling out those things. Watch the movie Shooter. Yes, it's a movie. It's not, but it's reasonably accurate. So they're pouring anti-clotting powder on the wound, and so that's what they did. Now, have we left anything out? Because oh God, they're saying so basically the newest thing is that there were some squirrels outside of Candace Owens' window, and the squirrels told Candace Owens that the security, the event for the following day, the security team did not coordinate the security for a subsequent appearance the day after September 10th. Now, again, who? We don't know. Some tip. You know, some, I mean, is any of this true? No, it's just the squirrels running around in Candace Owens' brain. So it isn't true. However, as a commenter pointed out, is that the event for the following day, it wasn't a Turning Point USA event. I think it was a Truth and Liberty conference, and Charlie Kirk was only one of the speakers. Like on September 10th, it was all about Charlie Kirk. At the following day's event, he was just one of many speakers. So the security arrangements were not handled by Turning Point USA. They were handled by, if I'm not mistaken, it's Truth and Liberty conference, and he was just one of the speakers. So it wasn't Turning Point USA's job to coordinate with local police. So I would, I'll bet an Outback Steakhouse dinner that that will come up with the plan, with the communications between Brian Harpole's Turning Point USA security team and the local police and things. I'm sure it exists, but it doesn't matter because it wasn't a Turning Point USA event. So anyway, so that's the big nonsense. I don't script things usually. I'm just wondering, was there anything I left out? No, I think that's about it. It is that from the legal perspective. Now, people could criticize this. I just got hooked on plane crash after action analyses. I don't know why. It's empty calories. It's a waste of time. But for some reason, it just got me interested. I'm sure that security people can sit there and pick apart and say, well, here's what they did right. Here's what they did wrong. I'm sure that's a whole, there are people who are experts there. I'm just wanting to say the legal analysis of the difference between what we come to expect from the president and the Secret Service, as opposed to a private citizen and a private security guard, and all the consequences that no, we haven't finished. Hold on. So now the attackers are saying, well, within 3 days, Turning Point USA paved over the crime scene. That's insane. Turning Point USA does not own the university. Turning Point USA does not own the public area of the university. Turning Point USA does not own that section of the university. They can't pave. Can I come over to your house and pave over your flower garden? It's not my house. No, I can't pave over anything. It's just absolute stupidity. So they say that they're paving it over. Now, the university owns it, but the Orem police and the FBI, because there are interstate implications, they control the crime scene. Charlie Kirk's private security is not in charge of the crime scene. They legally. So I certainly hope the armed police put up the yellow tape, but whether they did or they didn't, someone can't just come along and start rearranging the crime scene. I mean, I'll bet your bottom dollar that they had police officers stationed there 24/7 for as long as necessary. Now, the thing is, when the job is done, it's done. If they collect all the evidence from that crime scene and all the investigators for Orem, Utah, say, okay, we got it all. You sure? You sure you got all the evidence? Yep. You got photographs? Yep. You took soil samples? Yep. You looked at the blood splatter? Yep. You took samples? Yep. You're done? We're done. Okay, they don't continue the crime scene. The crime scene's over because they're done. They don't need anything else. So yeah, at that point, they might close down the crime scene, but it doesn't need to be done. But the thing is, as long as they need that place, nobody is allowed to come near that. So including Turning Point USA's private security team. So they came up with that nonsense. And there was another one too, but I forget it. So maybe I will just say that put this into legal context. We'll find out more, I'm sure. But in the meantime, I would urge you to think. This is John Moseley urging you to think, because thinking is good. So have a thoughtful, thinking, logical day. Thank you.